Good morning, and welcome to a new episode of Meatpacking Unpacked, Community Connected, brought to you by the Meatpacking District. My name is Jeffrey LaFrancois, and I'm the Executive Director of the Meatpacking Business Improvement District. Today, I'm joined by Helen Wright, CEO of Belstaff, the district's newest retail tenant. Helen has been CEO of Belstaff since 2018. Prior to that, she had many years' experience in luxury fashion brand management, including senior roles at Karl Lagerfeld, LVMH, Fendi, and Ralph Lauren. At Belstaff, Helen has transformed the way the brand engages with customers, with a focus on direct-to-consumer marketing, as well as investing in the development of the brand's e-commerce platform. Alongside this, she has provided over the expansion of Belstaff's bricks and mortar presence, with key openings in the UK, Germany, and the US. Helen's key aims since she took the helm have been to reconnect people with the brand's story and history, grow its cross-generational appeal, and make it more accessible and inclusive. Helen is one of only a handful of women CEOs in the fashion world. She lives in London with her husband and son and has joined us today. So thanks, Helen, for being here.
It's a pleasure to be with you, Jeffrey.
And we're delighted to have you. I was in the store this weekend. It's fantastic. So welcome to the neighborhood.
Well, thank you.
Why did Belstaff choose meatpacking?
Belstaff chose meatpacking as an absolutely natural decision after spending a lot of time in city in New York City over many years, looking at the evolution of the streets, of the shopping zones, and of the customer. And for some time, we've had our sights set on downtown, and for some time, our sights were set on meatpacking, and we've watched it evolve and move over time. And when we last looked in the middle of 2019, it was absolutely convincing that the evolution had reached a point where it was not just a fantastic and rich cultural venue with a nighttime sort of flair. It actually started to come alive 24 hours a day with fabulous things like the regeneration of the retail area, certainly, brilliant hotels, certainly, but also the High Line, the Whitney Museum of Modern Art, really great reasons to be there. And I think we see that in all of the locations that we place our stores. We like to have that combination of culture, art, perhaps media, and sort of interesting combinations of things, and of course hospitality, so that people, I think that's how people like to spend their time. So the meatpacking for us was a really natural choice after looking for quite some time for the perfect home. We found it.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. The store is just beautiful, and it's unique in that you guys tell us about the workshop and what you can do when you visit the store on Gansevoort Street.
Yeah, there's so much you can do. It's totally fun, and I can't wait to come and do it myself. Actually, I've got complete shocking envy going on right now. But what we've launched that workshop as a world first for our network, and it felt right. It felt like the meatpacking, the kind of the cultural creativity and that sort of aspect of the location that the store was in lent itself to expanding the offer, not just to the typical retail services and collections that we sell, but also to something a little more meaningful, a little more engaging, and actually something that we feel is completely relevant for 2020 and beyond. And so the workshop was born out of that sentiment. The workshop represents an opportunity to customize, to personalize, and to upcycle things, to give your favorite pieces maybe a completely new lease on life. And so the options in there are almost, not quite, but almost infinite. We laser print, we stitch, we paint, we repair. Of course, there's great old-fashioned services like taking up hems and fixing stuff. But we also like to play around. And so far, in the couple of weeks that we've been opened, we've done loads of work that's quite varied. So people have come in and had monogramming on a jacket that they've purchased in the store, and just kind of given it that little accent of personalization to monogram. Others have kind of come in with a great creative design in their heads for chain stitching that our workshop manager Raphael and Ali have been overseeing. So they kind of look to us for some inspiration and creativity, and then we can do it. And it's the services are quite extensive, and so far what it does is kind of add another layer to coming into a store. And so we think it's a more meaningful place to come to. You have fun. We've got to make it worth everybody's while to come in, right? I mean, it's time to kind of raise our game as well in terms of engagement and giving people a reason to come out of their homes in a time where that maybe needs a lot of thinking about. But in the future too, when the weather is a little brighter in every sense of the word, we think that it needs to be something that kind of adds more value. So that's the reason for the workshop. And we've got a first workshop coming up. It's a masterclass in screen printing next weekend. So I'm looking forward to kind of hearing back about that.
That's fantastic. And you mentioned something that's interesting, and I mentioned it in your opening. You've both overseen an expansion of e-commerce on the brand as well as brick and mortar.
Yeah.
And that's remarkable, given all the stories we read about the state of retail, and brick and mortar is dying and retail is dying. And so Bellstaff is not a new brand. What's the history there, and how were you able to fold both of these into sort of what's happening right now?
Yes, it's really an interesting question of the evolution of brands, I think, this one, where you talk about the mix of channels. Once upon a time, we called it sort of a multi-channel business, and now we call it, generically speaking, an omni-channel business. But to bring it into sort of more HD and color, what really excites us is to combine retail stores, physical stores, and a really, really strong digital channel in our business. Mm-hmm. But it is about combining it. It's about making the customer journey as consistent and seamless as possible, so that there's not really any, well, there just should not be any kind of barriers from one to the other. Whichever way you want to go, wherever the journey starts or ends, the whole thing is a great immersive Bellstaff experience. So, I don't think there's one right answer for the balance of stores and e-commerce, but I think that where our strategy has developed in general on a less is more strategy. So we don't want to have too many stores. We want to have the right stores that support a dominant e-commerce focus, if you like, a dominant digital focus. So that is our lead channel. That's the most volume there, right there in the digital channel. And then mm-hmm. a store in New York City, perhaps one eventually on the West Coast, will help to drive traffic across both physical stores and onto the digital platform too. So not too many stores, but some, because that's where relationships are formed, where lifetime relationships with customers are formed, where the brand experience can be best explained. And that's the rationality of our business plan. We need both, but the dominant channel, e-commerce.
I think that's remarkable and striking from a it's not just the brick and mortar enhances the e-commerce experience. And when I think about Bellstaff, I want to touch the jacket. So yeah. Talk to me about of what this wax cotton and what you guys have pioneered and what people can kind of get from that. And what does it do?
Yeah, well, it starts out, the story of wax cotton is a really remarkable one, in that it starts out as a story of fabric. And that, I think, is both interesting and reassuring in a certain way, because it was fabric that was created to use in a military context for the armed services in the Great War sort of era, actually more in the Second World War, where this kind of cloth was used as ground sheets, as tenting, and as canvas kind of material for the various armed forces, and in that sort of war context. So sure. It was inherently protective. It was robust. It had waterproof, or water resistance, I should probably say. Water resistance. It had strength. It had endurance. It was built for that original purpose as fabric, and in that sort of usage. After some time, it became clear that that kind of fabric was also the right kind of fabric to protect adventurous men and women who may have been pilots or motorcyclists or aviators who needed fit-for-purpose clothing to keep them safe, clothing that was right for the task that they were undertaking. And these people had no fears, no barriers. And so it became the cloth of garments, whether they were jackets or flying suits or other things. And so that was the story of the creation of the waxed cotton, which is the iconic fabric of Bellstaff. And it's a very densely woven cotton. And the density is what gives it strength and robustness. And the waxing treatment gives it the water repellency factor, as well as a really great sheen and a slight, depending on how old it is and depending on how much you use it and love it and screw it up and throw it in the corner, it has a great character too. And we'll always look after that jacket for you, Jeffrey. So if you have one, you can bring it in and we'll re-wax it and kind of bring it back to that almost, first day condition. Yeah. But sometimes they look great when they look really old and bashed up.
Yeah, there's a real character. The cloth becomes a character in a sense.
Yes, it does.
For the piece itself. Yeah. You've been really nailing it on partnerships. I just a few that I have seen: Jimmy DiResta, Glenn Walk, Christine Rucci for opening, all this stuff. What determines partners for Bellstaff? How do you guys work through that?
Yeah, well, with the New York store, we wanted to be local. We wanted to join up with excellent, talented, brilliant people from the locality, friends maybe that we've made along the way over many years that we knew of, and kind of build a community of makers and creators who added to the family. So we've got our own family in the store with the store team, Spencer and Raphael and the team. The extended family are people like Jimmy DiResta and Ali, who's the sort of the chain stitcher and customizer in the store, Christine Rucci, godmother, New York City, and Glenn. They become part of the family. They will, I'm sure, always play a part in the work that we do in that workshop. So for New York, it felt right to do that and to invite those kinds of people to join us to animate the workshop. More broadly speaking, partnerships for us have to feel organic and authentic. That's the starting point. We like to work with people who are really kind of genuine Belstaff souls, if I can say that. So perhaps it is that we have a meeting of the minds with someone who has a certain background in their, either maybe it might be in their career, it might be in their pursuits, it might be that the life that they've lived, they've traveled the road less taken, and they are just somehow a natural ambassador for the brand. So James Norton is our current brand ambassador and creative collaborator. So he's a British actor. We will work with many other ambassadors over time of different nationalities. At the moment, James is our fantastic collaborator or ambassador. He's an actor, as I said, and he has an absolute passion for Bellstaff and everything that it stands for. He loves to wear Bellstaff when he's out and about riding his bike through the city, and actually his life story, his kind of way of kind of living his life and our values, our brand purpose, which is really about being built for life and about taking a kind of a different path, taking the road less traveled. It's kind of his story too. So there's a natural fit there. And we've also got this partnership with the Long Way Up crew, and that's Ewan McGregor and Charlie Borman. And I don't know if you've ever seen what they do, but they go on epic motorcycle adventures. And we are their partners for their latest one. And they've ridden for tens of thousands of miles from the tip of South America all the way up to LA, wearing Belstaff technical suits on the bike. And with Apple TV, we've got a great partnership there. But again, it's true to the brand. It's not just it's not just kind of because it was there, we did it.
Yeah. And isn't there something to think about the reason why they're doing electric bikes, or there's something green about the new trip that they're on, right?
Yeah. So they've really crushed it, I think, in every way here. They have the electric Harley Davidsons. They have an electric support vehicle, kind of, a couple of them, the electric Rivians in support. They have the kind of latest cutting edge Belstaff clothing to wear on the bike. And actually along the journey, they took care to stop and understand the countries that they were moving through, some of the communities that they were riding with and meeting along the way, and really understanding things, the climate change agenda in situ, as they went along in South America. So there's a lot of layers of meaning in that project, and we are proud to be part of it. It's fun.
That's great, and exciting, and really neat to see how a 100-year-old brand meets the day.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, we are almost 100 years old, and then what we're now doing is pushing into the next 100. And the brand, it's such a fascinating brand for the fact that it has this archive and history and playbook, and yet it is also inherently modern. So yes, we have a lot of fun here.
That's great. Lucky you. So now I want to switch to pack a little bit to my fire round of questions to unpack just a little bit more about Helen, so we can know a little bit about you. Don't be scared, I promise.
Okay.
So just 5 quick, easy questions, and we'll take it from there.
All right.
So, road trip or vacation halfway around the world on a plane?
Road trip.
A trip to the theater or a visit to the museum?
Theater.
Stripes or solids?
Solids.
If you're going out to eat, are you going for brunch or for dinner?
Oh, I'm greedy, both. But let's go brunch. Brunch.
Okay. And then cocktails or wine?
Wine.
Okay. I mean, that could be a both also, but I
do
figured there
think
could
so,
be an or
Jeffrey.
there.
I find it hard to make that choice, but yeah, okay, fine.
Well, those are my fire rounds, so we know a little bit more about you. And having learned a whole bunch about the brand today, it's so exciting to have you guys open in the district and being there. Are you going to be able to visit soon?
Yes, we very much hope so. We're obviously just watching all of the indicators to know when we can do that. But as and when we do, we look forward to seeing you and your team personally in New York City, and come and see us in the store. And then let's go and test that brunch or dinner option. We'll figure it out.
That sounds great to me, Helen. Thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate it. Absolutely.
Okay.
And thanks to all of you for watching Meatpacking Unpacked Community Connected. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and stay tuned to hear from the city's cast of characters across the cultural, political, and business spectrum. See you next week, everybody.